Hello and welcome to episode 28 of Game of Wines, a Song of Ice and Fire podcast. I'm Olivia.
I'm Gabby.
And I'm Chris.
And today we will be discussing Jon Chapter 4 in A Game of Thrones, so make sure you have read before listening.
So the news that I have for today is actually just a little bit more on the House of the Dragon. This one is actually brought to us by GamesRadar.com. So just some more news about it. We know that it's a couple years off right now, but and we know what the premise of it. We've talked about that before. But some interesting things is that so after the pandemic delayed the production a little bit, they're actually HBO is saying that it should be released sometime in 2022. So they've actually begun filming, from what I understand.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so they've actually started doing it. And then there's a whole nother, there's actually a whole list of people that are going to be in it now. I know that there was about 3 or 4 that we knew before.
So who did we know already?
So the ones that we knew already was going to be, I believe it was Hightower and Alicent Hightower, who's going to be played by Olivia Cooke, and then we also knew about the main character, who that was going to get played by. But there's actually a whole list here. So the recent casting, we have, and I'm going to probably butcher these names, but Steve Toussaint, Rhys Ifans, Eve Best, and Sonoya Mizuno have joined the project as well. Toussaint is going to play Lord Corlys Velaryon. He's a powerful lord of House Velaryon. And so he's the Targaryen bloodline, the Velaryon bloodline. Mm-hmm. But that is also the most notorious nautical adventurer in the history of Westeros. Wow. So that'd be pretty cool.
That would be cool.
And he had the world's largest navy at some point. So that'd be kind of cool to see that on screen. Ifans is going to play Otto Hightower, who's the Hand of the King. And then Best is going to play Princess Rhaenyra Velaryon. She's a dragon rider and wife of Lord Corlys Velaryon, so the one we just talked about. Mizuno will play Mysaria, and this is kind of cool. I thought this was a cool character. So Mysaria is a woman who arrived in Westeros with nothing, but rose through the ranks to become the most trusted ally of Prince Daemon Targaryen, the heir of the throne. So that's going to be like a rags to riches story inside really cool. of it. But we know that it's going to be Dance of the Dragons, right? So now we do know about Emma Darcy and Matt Smith, I believe. Mm-hmm. Emma Darcy will play Prince Rhaenyra Targaryen, and Prince Daemon Targaryen will be played by Matt Smith. And then we knew about Olivia Cooke as well. So
Olivia Cooke, if you guys don't know, I don't know if you guys watch Bates Motel, but she was Norman Bates' friend in Bates Motel, and she's a pretty cool actress.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool to
and
see her in something
Damon,
else.
And Matt Smith, I believe he's from Doctor Who. Isn't that the guy from Doctor Who?
I'm not familiar with Doctor Who. I'm sorry for all my Doctor Who friends out there. Let me look. Yes.
Yeah.
He was Doctor Who, and he was Prince Philip in the Netflix series The Crown.
Yeah. So he's going to play Daemon Targaryen, and I remember we were watching the stuff.
He'll be good.
Yeah, we're watching the stuff, and Daemon Targaryen is supposed to be, like, wicked. Mm-hmm. He's, like, one of the evilest Targaryens, or he's the most cruel. So, like we said, it's going to be Dance of the Dragons, which is most of George R. R. Martin's book, Fire and Blood. They say that these characters will play a major role in the events of House of the Dragon, and even their lasting presence in the book. It's likely we'll see them across several seasons.
Sweet. Didn't they order more than one season already, HBO?
I think it's 2.
Okay. Well, for now, yeah. I'm sure there'll be more.
So the one that we did know about was Paddy Considine. So that is going to be the lead. Yes. He's the lead character that we're following from the beginning.
Okay.
And he plays King Viserys the First.
The First.
So
I know there's a lot of Viseryses and
Viserys, Targaryen. Yeah, it's a lot. But I think it'd be kind of cool.
That's awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah.
And then Noah Martin messaged this week. One of his friends passed away that he wrote on his blog about. So our sympathies go out to you, George.
Yes. Some people answered our questions this week.
Woohoo!
Thank you, Emily and Hannah, our sister.
And our loyal listeners.
Yes. So the first question that we had was, do you think Jon was poisoned or died of natural causes? Jon Arryn. Emily says that he was poisoned. That convo between Ned and Maester Pycelle is kind of solidified that, and I think so, as I agree with that.
Yeah, it was very obvious after that, I think.
Hannah agrees with that sentiment and says, poisoned faux show.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It's way too sketch.
Way too, just
convenient.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as we know from the books, nothing is as simple as you think it is, right?
Right.
So the second question is, who do you think Pycelle truly serves? So Emily says, if I had to guess a house, I would probably say Lannisters, but honestly, I think he just serves himself. Yeah?
Yeah.
He's been around long enough to see a lot of failures from various houses, so he's probably over it and only looking out for himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Agreed.
Hannah says, Pycelle seems like he just serves whoever is going to give him the most benefit. Yeah.
He's pretty selfish in that way.
Yeah. So if it happens to be the king, he serves the throne. But I could also see him serving a house. Maybe the Lannisters, if that serves his best interest.
That's a good point.
Yep. Our third question is, do you think it is wise for Ned to trust Baelish at this point? So Emily said, I'm not sure. Baelish seems to take pride in the fact that he knows confidential information or secrets that give him some sort of power over people.
I really like that.
Yeah.
He takes pride in that. Like, it's his secret weapon, kind of.
It is.
You know, he doesn't use it for his own... I mean, he does use it for his own benefit, but he uses it to hurt other people and gain what he wants.
Yeah. She continues with, so even though he shares some of his knowledge with Ned, there's probably some things he's still keeping to himself to hang on to that power. So he just seems slimy, or... in your words, sus.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Sus.
Yeah. Hannah says, Baelish is pretty slimy, yep. And anything he does is for his own benefit. So no, I don't think Ned should trust Baelish. But maybe Ned doesn't know enough about him. So if Baelish is giving him helpful information, it might seem to Ned that he can be trusted. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't trust him, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't trust anyone in King's Landing. They're all just looking out for themselves, yeah. It's like a game of Survivor. You gotta look out for yourself and make alliances. But trust no one. I know they're watching. I know that they're watching Survivor, so it's funny. It really is a Game of Thrones, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
It is, though.
It is.
It's all a game.
But I agree with, I my sentiment on that one as well is Baelish is literally saying, don't trust me.
Yeah, he legit said, should you really trust me, Ned?
He said that the smartest thing that you did since you got off your horse, Ned, was not trust me.
Right.
Yeah. So,
he legit just told him, don't trust me.
But then again, is it like reverse psychology?
I don't know. He's, like they said, he's slimy.
He's slimy. You don't know which way he's going.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for answering our questions.
Yes, keep them coming. Yeah. We like reading them.
So last episode, Ned was playing detective, and did some interrogating with Maester Pycelle. He interrogated the crap out of him. Yeah. He also learned about everyone's little spies, so all of Varys' little birds, and how basically everybody in King's Landing has people watching everywhere.
Reports to somebody.
Yeah. And then as he's returning to his chambers, he finds Arya practicing her dancing in a stairwell. And that was a cute little... Scene.
Yeah.
Moment.
So today we're in Castle Black, and Jon meets a new character, which we learn a lot about very quickly, and a new brotherhood is formed, and one of the best characters, for sure.
The wine that I have today, not really sure what brand it is. The label literally only says, winter is the worst.
Facts.
And it's a red.
But it is coming.
Yes. Well, for us, it's already here.
Yep.
I mean, looking out the window right now.
Full force.
Yep. It's here.
All right.
Okay, so the wine rule, we're going to talk about 2 more wine terms. The first one is animal, which I thought this one was really weird, but this can be a positive thing. So the author says that animal wines smell like smoked ham, Or it could also mean that they taste like a bloody twang like you get from like a rare steak. It can also be a bad thing though. And this is so gross. He said the bad animal wines smell like sweaty horse saddle.
Ew.
Which is a sign of bacteria. Or wet dog. Most commonly in corked wines. And then the second one is rustic. And it means it's not polished and it's kind of rough around the edges. So it used to be a very negative thing to say about wine, but now wine drinkers have more compassion for this, and its meaning has become more complex.
Interesting.
Guys, I'm very excited for this episode.
Me too.
This chapter is so good.
Starting to get into some good stuff.
Yeah. This one and the next one you guys are just gonna love.
We're excited.
Anyways.
Let's get into it.
So right off the bat, we meet another member of the Night's Watch that Jon is sparring with. So I'm going to go into just a little bit of detail because he's prominent in this chapter. His name is Darian. He is known for his singing voice, and Alliser calls him Lover. He is an aspiring songwriter and plays the fiddle and wood harp, and is described as quick but afraid of getting hit, and some say he has a loose tongue and a quick temper. So him and Jon are sparring, and Jon is kind of giving him pointers on how to fight well. So he says to spread your feet apart so you don't lose your balance, and pivot as you deliver the blow to put weight behind your blade. So I thought this was a cool thing to point out because it seems like Jon is becoming a sort of teacher to his brothers since his skill is sword fighting. And we know before that he was not very keen on helping his brothers, but that has seemed to change now because he sees them more as like family instead of these strangers. And you have to help your family however you can. So he's trying to better everyone so that everyone is stronger as a group. So suddenly all the boys stop training and what they're doing as a new recruit joins the scene. And up comes a very fat boy, and Jon said that it is the fattest boy he had ever seen. And it said that he looked like he weighed more than 20 stone. So remember that 1 stone is equal to about 14 pounds, so that would make this guy about 280 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had a large double chin, pale eyes that moved nervously as he looked about, a moon face, and plump, sweaty fingers. The new recruit noticed that everyone was staring at him, and he nervously spoke and said, They told me I was to come here for training. He said this to no one in particular, just out loud, because he knew everyone was staring at him. Pip made an observation and said, he's a lordling, southernmost, like near Highgarden. And Pip has a knack for guessing where you're from just by the sound of your voice. And he said he has traveled the 7 kingdoms, so he just kind of knows this stuff just by hearing your voice. So they go back to describe what the boy was wearing. There was a striding huntsman on his breast, worked in with scarlet threads. He has a fur-trimmed surcoat, and we're going to go into what that sigil is and who it belongs to later on in the episode. Sir Alliser takes one look at this boy, and he is unimpressed. He says, it would seem that they have run short of poachers and thieves down south. Now they send us pigs to man the wall. Is fur and velvet your notion of armor, my lord of Ham? And we all know that Alliser loves to give out condescending nicknames to everyone. And this is just the beginning. This does not stop for this poor guy. It was revealed that this new recruit had brought his own armor with him. Padded doublé, which is like a close-fitting padded jacket. And I looked up a picture of it, and it kind of looks more like a vest than a jacket, but it's like padded. Then he had boiled leather, mail, and a plate and helm. He even had a great wood and leather shield. And they noticed something, that none of it was black, which is the color of the Night's Watch, so of course Alliser had to comment on that. He suggests that he goes to the armory and re-equip himself and leave behind his personal stuff. So then they go on to say that fitting him into new armor and stuff took nearly all morning. He was so big that they had to make custom fit stuff for him, and his head was even too big for the helmet.
Aww.
His leathers were so tight on him that he could barely move. And when he was finally dressed, the book said he looked like he was about to burst because everything was so small on him. They said something about, like, it looked like he was an overstuffed sausage. About ready to burst from its skin. Yeah.
Poor guy.
He comes back to the training grounds and Alliser comments, "Let's hope you are not as inept as you look. Halder, see what Sir Piggy can do." So that is the nickname that will stick with him, is Sir Piggy. Or or Lady Piggy. Or
Lord of Ham, too.
Yeah, that too, but it all has to do with
pigs
and ham.
Yeah. So he sets Halder on this new guy, and Halder was born in a quarry and apprenticed as a stonemason. He was 16 years old, tall and muscular, and Jon says his blows are harder than anyone he had ever felt. So Jon was worried for him, because obviously Halder is experienced, he's tall, he's, ready to go. And this guy is fresh meat, literally. So when Halder was set on him, it said that the fight lasted less than a minute. The boy laid on the ground, bleeding from his head and shaking, while he said, "I yield, no more, I yield, don't hit me." And while he said this, the other boys were laughing at him. Sir Alliser commanded him to get back up and said, "On your feet, Sir Piggy." The boy did not move, so he ordered Halder to hit him with the flat of his wooden sword until he stood up. Halder gave a small hit, and Alliser commanded him to hit harder. So he hit him harder, and the boy's leather split, and he screeched in pain.
Imagine how much force it takes to split leather.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like,
That's a lot of force.
How do you do that?
A lot of force.
So Jon started to kind of move forward to help him, but Pip put his hand on him and stopped him as he glanced anxiously at Sir Alliser. So I think Pip was kind of worried if Jon stepped in, what Alliser would do to him.
Don't get into this. It's not your fight. Not your fight.
Just let this play out, please. So Alliser continued to command for the boy to get up. He's just being ruthless at this point. The boy struggled to stand up, but slipped and fell as he tried to do so. So Halder hit him again, and one of the boys on the side, Rast, said, "Cut us off a ham." I feel awful. Jon had enough at this point and yelled to Halder, "Halder, enough." And Halder looked at Alliser, who said, "The bastard speaks, and the peasants tremble. I remind you that I am the master-at-arms here, Lord Snow." And then Jon came and knelt next to the boy and was begging Halder not to hit him again. He pointed out that the boy yielded and that there's no honor in beating a fallen foe. And Halder agreed with him and echoed, "He yielded," and was agreeing with Jon. Alliser was like, "Oh, look, Jon is in love," as Jon helped the boy to his feet. Alliser told Jon to show him his sword, and Jon drew it from its sheath, because he didn't want to piss off Alliser anymore. So Alliser said, "The bastard wishes to defend his lady love, so we shall make an exercise of it." So he had Halder and two others fight against Jon, who was defending the boy. Jon instructed for the boy to stay behind him, and suddenly Pip and Gren came to the rescue and were standing next to Jon ready to defend him.
The boys are
and
ready.
The boy. Yeah. And I said, "Oh, they're friends now," because before
they were just fighting.
Yeah.
Now they're like, "I got your back."
And now they're like, "I got your back, bro."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on.
So they begin to spar, and eventually Jon's team got the best of the others, and the other team yielded. Finally, Sir Alliser called it a day. As they were walking back to the armory, the boy finally introduced himself to Jon. He goes, "My name is Samwell Tarly of Horn. I was of Hornhill until I left. I've come to take the black. My father is Lord Randall, a bannerman to the Tyrells of Highgarden. I used to be his heir, only..." And then Jon interrupts and says, "I'm Jon Snow, Ned Stark's bastard of Winterfell." So, the boy is Samwell Tarly.
We now have a name.
Yes. So, just a little bit about Samwell Tarly, because Chris is going to get into the Tarly house later, but as we've heard, Samwell is very fat with dark hair, pale eyes, and a large moon-shaped face. He's fond of music and songs and prefers books over weapons and soft fabrics over armor. He is also a timid craven, which, remember, craven is like a coward, right?
Yeah.
He's afraid of blood and violence, and although he is insecure and awkward, Sam is observant and intelligent. He is the eldest son of Lord Randall Tarly and his wife, Lady Melissa Florent. He is a recruit of the Night's Watch, obviously. And he is more popularly known as Sam and not Samwell. So, that is Samwell Tarly.
Yeah.
Yay.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Samwell gives Jon a nod and tells him that if he wants, he could call him Sam.
Yep.
Because that's what his mother called him, and that's what he is more commonly known as we just said.
Yes.
And as Pip comes up to join them,
I love this conversation.
he says, "You can call him Lord Snow. You don't want to know what his mother called him."
Oh boy.
Yeah. And Jon just replies, "These two are Gren and Pipar."
Pipar.
And again, here are the boys making fun of each other. He goes, "Gren's the ugly one." And Pip says that, and Gren scowls and goes, "You're uglier than me. At least I don't have ears like a bat." Sam, gravely kind of says, "My thanks to all of you."
Aw.
And in a demanding tone, Gren asks why he didn't get up and fight. And Sam just replies that he wanted to, but he just couldn't. He didn't want him to hit him anymore. He looked at the ground and he said to them that, "I fear I'm a coward. My Lord Father always said so." So obviously, who just admits that?
Yeah.
Gren looks thunderstruck, and even Pip has no words, and he had words for everything. What sort of man could proclaim himself a coward?
Like that easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam, I guess, must have read their thoughts from their faces, which is funny because if they're not saying it, their faces are showing it.
Yeah. He's very observant, like I said. Yeah.
And his eyes met with Jon's, but then darted away as quick as a frightened animal, from what Jon says.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "I'm sorry, I don't mean to be like I am," and then he walked heavily to the armory. And Jon called after him and said, "You were hurt, tomorrow you'll do better." And Sam just looks over his shoulder sadly and says, "No, I won't, I never do better." And Jon said that he could see him blinking back tears.
It makes me sad.
That little line that Jon said reminded me of the water dancer.
Cereal?
Yeah.
Where he goes, "You didn't catch it. Tomorrow you'll catch it.
Tomorrow you will."
Yeah.
And Jon did the same thing. "You'll do better tomorrow."
Yeah. So when he was gone, Gren just frowned and kind of uncomfortably said, "Nobody likes cravens. I wish we hadn't helped him. What if they think we're craven too?" And Pip just told him that he would be too stupid to be craven. To which Gren replies, "I am not." And Pip just continues, "Yes, you are. If a bear attacked you in the woods, you'd be too stupid to run away." I love this.
Gosh.
Gren goes, "I would not. I'd run away faster than you."
Nuh-uh. Yuh. Nuh-uh.
And then Gren literally stops, noticing that Pip has this, grin on his face, and then he realizes what he just said. "I'll run away faster than you." "Oh, so you're gonna run."
Got it.
And Jon just left them there arguing because he's too good for that.
Yeah. He's above it.
He just returned to the armory and hung up his sword and then stripped off his battered armor. He then goes on to start thinking about how life at Castle Black followed certain patterns. So the mornings were for swordplay and the afternoons were for work. The different brothers would set the new recruits on different tasks or chores to learn where their skills lie.
So they're kind of... I'm just trying to figure out what this means. They're kind of figuring out where they're going to belong in the Night's Watch, right?
What role they're all going to play.
Right.
I'm noticing a very militaristic thing.
Yeah.
So you have a commander that's very mean, and so they all come together against the commander, so that's how they become brothers. Then they find out their skill set of what they would do, kind of like a specialty.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this before, but it's a very militaristic thing to strip your identity before you get into what your role is, and I think that's what Alliser's role is here.
Yeah.
You know?
So even though we're saying it was so mean for him to say keep hitting Sam, he's trying to
toughen him up.
He's trying to push him to be, he's gonna have to do this stuff.
Right.
So
he's trying to prepare him.
Yeah.
Even though he's being mean, that's kind of his job.
Yeah.
He's the drill sergeant here.
Right.
Absolutely. So Jon cherished the afternoons when he was sent out with Ghost ranging at his side to bring back game for the Lord Commander's table. But for every day that he spent hunting, he had to give a dozen to Noye in the armory. And other times he often ran messages, mucked out stables, or fletched arrows.
Question.
Yes.
Does this mean that Ghost is like hunting for everyone?
Yes.
Is that what?
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Helping them at least.
Jon.
With Jon,
Ghost,
yeah. So Jon's like hunting for food for everyone.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
So that afternoon, the watch commander sent him to the winch cage. That's funny to say that.
I'm gonna look up what that is.
I'm pretty sure
No,
I'm pretty sure it's the elevator.
Yeah, it's the elevator that goes up the wall, yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Tyrion did it, remember?
Yes.
He sent him there with 4 barrels of fresh crushed stone. That feel like fresh crushed is a weird word to say. Anyway,
Here's fresh
crushed
stone for you.
So the stone was used to scatter gravel all over the icy footpaths on top of the wall. So kind of like how we put ice out.
Salt.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Salt out on the ice in front of our houses and all that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, all over the roads and stuff too.
Yeah.
It was lonely and boring work, even with Ghost along for the company, but Jon found that he really didn't mind it. On a clear day, you could see half the world from top of the wall, and the air was always cold and bracing. He basically just liked it because he could think here. He found himself thinking about Samwell Tarly and, oddly, Tyrion Lannister. He wondered what Tyrion would have made of Sam. And then he kind of remembers something that Tyrion tells him, and he says, most men would rather deny a hard truth than face it. So he's kind of coming to the whole conclusion that we were just kind of saying. But, like, the world is full of cravens who pretend to be heroes, and it took a queer sort of courage to admit cowardice as Samwell Tarly did.
I love that. Mm-hmm. He's seeing, like, something else in Sam that no one else did.
Yes.
And I also want to go back and comment on what you said about Tyrion, because I know when Chris and I read it, we picked up, like, we were like, I think Sam and Tyrion would get along phenomenally.
Yeah.
And, like, I know, Gabby, you said, like, Sam needs someone like Tyrion at this point.
We all need someone like Tyrion.
Right. Mm-hmm. He's just so good at, like, figuring out
Hello, Tyrion.
the strengths of people like this.
Brand
you know? Because he knows.
Sam needs Tyrion. Jon needs Tyrion.
Everyone needs Tyrion.
Everyone needs Tyrion.
Yep.
We all need a Tyrion in our lives.
Yeah, we do.
100%. So it was late afternoon when he had finished graveling the paths. His sore shoulder had made the work go pretty slowly. So the evening meal was almost done by the time he and Ghost had reached the common hall. He noticed that his friends were at the bench nearest to the west wall, and that Pip was telling a story using all of his many voices to play the people in his stories. So he would make, like, women's voices and, like, all different pitches and stuff like that. And Jon kind of thinks that, you know, he takes as much pleasure from Pip's antics as anyone else, but instead of going to them, he turned away and went to the end of the bench where Sam sat alone, as far away from the others as he could get. So Sam's eyes widened at the sight of Ghost and goes, "Is that a wolf?" And Jon says it's a direwolf. His name is Ghost. The direwolf is the sigil of my father's house. And Sam replies that his is a striding huntsman.
There it is.
Yep. And Jon asks him if he likes to hunt, and Sam, like, visibly shudders and replies that he hates it. And he looked like he was gonna cry again.
I just want to give Sam a hug.
Yeah. Jon just goes, "What's wrong now? Why are you always so frightened?"
What's wrong now?
Stop!
Sam just stared at the last of his meal and barely shook his head, basically too afraid to talk. And then a burst of laughter filled the hall, and Jon just stood up and goes, "Let's go outside." Which I'm assuming he just thought it was, like, loud and,
like, overwhelming.
Yeah,
for
and
him.
wanted to get him out of that situation. So Sam looks up with his round face and is suspicious and asks, like, what they're gonna do outside. And Jon goes, "Talk. Have you seen the wall?" To which Sam goes, "I'm fat, not blind."
How you could miss that.
Like, how can you miss that?
He goes, exactly. He goes, of course I saw it. It's 700 feet. It's 700 feet high. He stood and wrapped himself in a fur-lined cloak over his shoulders, following Jon out of the common hall. He was still wary, as if he expected some type of cruel trick to follow, and Ghost followed along with them. And as they're walking along, Sam just goes, I never thought it would be like this. And his voice is like steaming in the cold, because when you breathe outside,
Yes.
Yeah.
you can see your breath. And he starts saying, all the buildings are falling down, and it's so cold? Jon asks. Jon actually mentions that there's a hard frost that's like settling over the castle, so obviously it is pretty cold. So Sam nods miserably and says, I hate the cold. Last night I woke up in the dark and the fire had gone out and I was certain that I was going to freeze to death by morning. Jon just replies that it must have been warmer where he came from. And Sam tells him that he had never seen snow until last month, which I thought this was... Poor Sam.
Yeah.
I mean...
He's just having a rough time right now.
He said that the men his father had sent him with were crossing the Barrowlands when this white stuff began to fall that was like soft rain. And he said it was beautiful at first, like feathers drifting from the sky. But as it kept going, he froze to the bone.
Yeah.
He said
Sounds
the men...
familiar.
Yeah, exactly.
Right now.
Yeah. He said the men he rode with had crusts of snow in their beards and more snow on their shoulders, and he was afraid that the snow was never going to stop. So Jon smiled at this. I think it's funny because obviously Jon's like used to the snow.
I was gonna say he's used to
the cold.
It's like us when we talk to someone from down south.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't stop the snow. No,
ever.
So the wall loomed before them, and Sam asks, are they going to make me go up there? His face curdled like old milk as he looked at the great wooden stairs. And he said, I'll die if I have to climb that.
Yeah, it's 700 feet high.
Yeah.
Nobody climbs
I would
that.
die.
I don't think anyone's climbed it
Sam. Same.
Yes.
Jon says there's a winch, they can draw you up by a cage. And Tarly sniffled and just replies that he doesn't like high places. So at this point, Jon's frowning and it's just too much. And he goes, are you afraid of everything?
I was say, he hates the cold.
Yeah.
He hates high places.
Yeah.
He hates the snow. Like,
Come on,
are
man.
you scared of everything?
What do you like?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
He goes, I don't understand. If you're truly so craven, why are you here? Why would a coward want to join the Night's Watch? So Sam just looked at him for a moment when his round face seemed to cave in on itself. He sat down on the frost-covered ground and began to cry, huge choking sobs that made his whole body shake. Wow. Jon could only stand and watch, and he said that like the snowfall on the Barrowlands, it seemed the tears would never end. It was Ghost who knew what to do. So, silent as a shadow, the direwolf moved closer and began to lick the tears off of Sam's face.
Oh.
I think that's so cute. The boy cried out, startled, and then somehow in a heartbeat, his sobs turned into laughter. So that shows you.
I think it's funny how Ghost, like, attacks Tyrion, and then Sam's crying, and he's like, oh.
Oh.
He's real nice to him.
Yeah. Exactly.
You are a complicated wolf, aren't you?
Yes, he is. He's got many layers.
Yes, he does.
So as Sam's laughing, Jon started laughing with him, and afterwards they just sat on the frozen ground, huddled in their cloaks with Ghost between them. And Jon told the story of him and Robb finding the puppies in the late summer snows, and before long he found himself talking about Winterfell. And he says, sometimes I dream about it. I'm walking down this empty hall, my voice echoes all around, but no one answers. So I walk faster, opening doors, shouting names. I don't even know who I'm looking for. Most nights it's my father, but sometimes it's Robb instead, or my little sister Arya, or my uncle. The thought of Benjen obviously makes him pretty sad because his uncle is still missing. The Old Bear, which is Lord Commander Mormont, has sent out rangers in search of him. It says that Sir Jeremy Riker had led 2 sweeps, and Quarren
Quarren, yeah.
Halfhand had gone forth from the Shadow Tower, but they'd found nothing aside from the few blazes in the trees that his uncle had left to mark his way in the Stony Highlands northwest. And, oh, I'm sorry, hold on. They had only found the few blazes in the trees that he had used to mark his way. And then when they got to the Stony Highlands to the northwest, the marks had stopped abruptly, and all trace of Benjen Stark vanished. So...
But I mean, they still haven't found, like, a body or anything, so I guess that's kind of good, right?
Yes and no, but we know what's happening north of the wall.
That's
so I
true.
don't think they'll find it.
There's things out there, yeah.
So, Jon says he continues on about his dream, and he dreams of the crypt. He's, running through the castle, obviously, like he talks about, and nobody's there. And he goes to the crypt, and he knows that he should go down into the crypt, but he refuses to go down there out of fear of what he might find down there. And he goes on about how he pictures what actually lays in the crypt, which is these old kings of the north, in stone with stone direwolves at their feet. And Jon feels like screaming, and he yells out, "I'm not a Stark. I'm not a Stark. I don't belong here. I'm not a Stark." And then he awakens, and Ghost jumps to his side, and his dream ends. And Jon comments that it's like a little embarrassing. He's like, "I don't normally tell people this stuff, and yet I feel like I can tell Sam it," which is odd, I guess. So he's a little embarrassed. So then he asks Sam, "Do you ever dream of home?" And Sam goes, "No, I hate it there. I hated Hornhill." And so then he asks him, "Okay, well, what about Hornhill?" And Sam quickly replies, or Sam talks about, well, the Tarlys were bannermen to House Tyrell of Highgarden. So I'm going to go into their, using the wiki here. So House Tarly of Hornhill is a noble house of the Reach and formerly a vassal. It's formerly a vassal who swore fealty to House Tyrell of Highgarden. Their stronghold is a castle that's called Hornhill, and the head of the house is called the Lord of Hornhill, obviously.
So it would be Randall Tarly.
So Randall Tarly now, yep. House Tarly has a militarist tradition, so we're going to get into that a little bit, and possesses a Valyrian steel sword that they call Heartsbane, and Sam actually mentions that in the chapter. Their sigil is a striding huntsman, red or green, and their house words are "first in battle," which is pretty cool. Pretty cool words.
That is cool.
First in battle. So Sam talks about how he was the firstborn son of Randall Tarly, and so therefore he was the heir to his house. And his father was extremely happy that he had a son because he wanted an heir. But from the moment that he started to grow up, his father hated what he had become. So instead of growing up like courageous and strong and wanting to fight like first in battle, he grew up fat and fun is what I would call it. So he enjoyed dancing and singing and reading books instead of fighting and learning how to do swordplay and stuff like that. So Sam's father tried every possible outlet to snap Sam into becoming the heir that he wanted. And some of the things that he did were extremely bad. And Sam talks about it here. Sam lists abuse, beating, scourging, and embarrassment were all used to get him to be more like what his father wanted. So Sam said that he was actually forced to sleep in chainmail at some point, so it would soak in. I think that was the dumbest thing.
Yeah.
And then another person dressed him up as a girl and paraded him through the streets just to try to force him to be courageous. And all this stuff that they did to Sam just made him more fearful and pushed him deeper into the way that he is now.
So Randall Tarly, you're kind of a POS.
Yeah, Sam even recounted, he whispered, he even talked about this time 2 warlocks bathed him in blood of a slaughtered bull.
Oh my god.
To try to get him.
Warlocks?
Warlocks from Karth. So.
Oh.
So, wizards.
Wizards?
Can I look up what warlocks mean for this world?
This world?
Keep talking.
So they actually bathed him in blood, And all this did was make Sam more afraid of blood than he already was.
Well, yeah.
And his dad actually had the warlocks whipped because of that, because it didn't work.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So Sam's father and mother actually had 2 girls after Sam, and then finally his brother was born. Dickon is his name, and
Dickon.
Once, yeah, horrible name. But once he was born, his father just paid full attention to Dickon, trying to make him into what he wanted Sam to be. And turns out, Dickon was exactly what he wanted.
Yep.
Did you find it?
I did. So, they're magic practitioners of Essos. Their center of power is the House of the Undying, home to the Undying Ones of Karth. Warlocks are also said to be active in Ashai, where all religious and magical disciplines can be practiced with impunity. They also said that they're kind of like alchemists of the 7 kingdoms. Their power and prestige has waned over the years. And yeah, and then right here on the wiki it says, in an effort to cure Sam of his timidity, his father used them to, what did you say?
Bathe him in blood of a slaughtered bull.
Right.
God.
Yeah, that.
But it did not make him as brave as promised.
Nope.
And then after that, Randall had the warlock scourged.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Yeah.
So,
That's crazy.
So Sam actually enjoyed this, that his father's attention was all on Dickon, because then he could read and do whatever he wanted, right? Mm-hmm. No more of this torture stuff. So on Sam's 15th birthday, after he was thinking everything was going fine, he found that his horse was saddled and all his bags were packed, and there was escorts waiting for him. So confused by this, Sam went and found his father, who was gutting a deer at the time. His father told him, he goes, I have no reason to hate you or loathe you because of what you are, but I don't want you, you are no heir of mine. I don't want you to take this. So, you are going to go join the Black. You're going to go join the Night's Watch. If you don't, if you refuse to join the Night's Watch, then tomorrow, when we're out hunting, your horse will trip and you will die.
Jesus.
And basically, I'm going to kill you, right?
His own dad, like...
In a hunting accident. And not only did he threaten to do that, but he said, he then like kind of, he goes, well, your mother has a good heart for you. I wouldn't want that pain on her of you dying. So basically saying like, if you don't want to hurt your mother, then you'll leave, because otherwise I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to read a little section there. He goes, so there is your choice. The Night's Watch, he reached inside the deer, ripped out its heart, and held it in his fist. Red and dripping, he said, or this. So, there it is. There's your threat. So, Sam told this story to Jon just sternly and calmly. Didn't cry, actually, which is pretty crazy. He's been crying about everything else.
I was going to say, he's probably numb from this.
Yeah, and so they sat for a while. Jon kind of just soaked that in. He didn't say anything, so they sat in silence and listened to the wind. And Jon says, we should return to the Great Hall for cider or mulled wine, and to hear Darian sing, whose voice is like honey over thunder. And Sam asked, okay, so if he's such a good singer, why is he here? Like, why didn't he, what did he do to get here? And Jon tells the story about how he slept with a nobleman's daughter, and basically he said that the daughter meant to sleep with him, but
wanted to
and helped him through the window, but then when the Lord found him, she went, oh, he's raping me. So Jon also said, or we could listen to Pip sing, but his voice is more like piss over a fart. And they laughed over that one.
So we got Hunter. What?
Honey over thunder.
Hunter. That's a new.
Yeah, Hunter.
Honey over thunder. Hunter. There you go.
Or piss over a fart.
Part.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, Olivia.
So they shared some laughter about that. And Sam asked if he'll be forced to fight tomorrow, and Jon said, "Yeah, every day you're going to be forced to fight.
Every single day."
So Sam decided, he's like, "I'm pretty tired from today. I'm going to get some sleep." And so he went off to go sleep. So Jon returned to the hall with Ghost, and the boys asked where he was, and he said that he was with Sam. So they made some jokes about Sam, about like how he was a craven and everything, and Jon kind of put them in their place. He goes, "This is how it's going to be." And the first one to fall in line was Pip. Pip had directly just Jon's back. And then everybody else fell in line except for Rast. And Rast said, I'm not going to not fight Sam. Like, I'm not going to, no. He goes, "I'm going to carve off a piece of bacon, is what I'm going to do."
Jesus.
So, instead of, arguing about this, later on, Rast woke up with Pip on his legs, Gren on his arms, and Ghost on his chest biting at his neck, till he agreed to do what he was supposed to do.
Yep.
And I think it's funny, Ghost actually nibbled at his neck and enough to draw blood. And Jon commented that the next day he told somebody that, I cut myself when I was shaving.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I cut myself when I was shaving. It wasn't,
Oh.
Yeah. No, it was a wolf. Yeah.
Hello.
So, from then on, Sam was not harmed. And even though Sir Alliser would get mad at them and call them, cravens themselves or pansies or women or whatever he called them, he felt the need to, or they did not harm him. So every time that he would go for a fight or attack, they would just throw his jabs away or play fight or whatever. And so Sam slowly, started to respect them because they weren't beating the crap out of him. So he slowly actually started to join them while they were eating and became as just much a part of them as Pip and Rast. So he was just, or Gren. So he was meant to be there.
Yay.
Yeah.
So Sam actually went to Jon's cell one night and thanked him and said, "I don't know what you did, but thank you. I know you did something, so thank you." And I thought this was great. He goes, "I've never had a friend before." And Jon said, "We're not friends. We're brothers."
Oh my God, how cute.
Boom.
Boom.
So Jon kind of thought of, and Sam smiled and left, and Jon kind of thought about this, about how this new family was almost nicer to him, or he felt more a part of it than in Winterfell with the Starks because of Catelyn, because of the way Catelyn made him feel. So he wanted so badly to share this with his Uncle Benjen. Mm-hmm. But he's lost. So that's how the chapter ends. Is him thinking.
And that's Sam, guys.
That's Sam.
He's going to be a big character later on.
Yeah.
So
our discussion questions are, why do you think Jon defended Sam?
I think because Jon himself was an outsider at one point, and he's kind of taking pity on Sam. Not even just pity, like he's straight up wanting to be his friend and wanting to defend him.
Yeah.
You know?
Kind of taking him under his wing.
Yeah.
I think it's just like I just think Jon's just a nice guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Good guy, Jon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The second question is, what do we think happened to Benjen Stark? Well, that's a tough one.
I don't know. He did.
I don't think he's dead, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was going to say, I don't think he's dead because they haven't found proof of that. But
we don't know.
It's a very strong possibility.
Yeah. Right. Like we've heard like what goes on beyond the wall in that forest, you know? So it could be a number of things. Maybe he's hiding, maybe I don't know.
Maybe he's a White Walker.
Ooh.
Ooh.
So the last question is, how do you think Sam will do in the Night's Watch, and will he find a skill?
I mean, I think yeah.
Yeah.
Eventually.
I think, reading about these different skills, about like what Jon said, where you could help out the maesters, or you could help out, somebody making food, you could help out, and I think he'll find a skill. I think he's going to have a hard time with the fighting part.
Obviously.
And I understand. Yeah. I see why they okay, every day they fight and then they go find a skill, right?
Right.
It's like you still have to be able to fight. Right. So I think that's what he's going to have a problem with. But will he find a skill? Yeah. Definitely. I think he'll definitely find a skill.
Yeah, for sure.
Something he's good at. I mean, he likes singing and reading.
True.
Yep.
So, we'll see. So that's all the discussion questions. Make sure you answer those. And let's see what your opinion is.
Gabby? Tyrion tidbit?
Oh, you're right. So our Tyrion tidbit is half-truths are worth more than outright lies.
I suppose?
I was going to say.
It's like a white lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Tyrion.
All right, make sure you guys follow us on all of our social media. You can find us on Facebook, Game of Wine's A Song of Ice and Fire podcast, or our Facebook group, which is Game of Wine's podcast group. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Game of Wines 1, and also on YouTube at Game of Wines podcast. That is it for this week's episode of Game of Wines. Next episode, we will be discussing Eddard Chapter 6, so make sure you read that chapter before next episode. Thanks for listening.